What's up, everybody? I hope everybody makes it through the night okay. I'm recording this just after uploading that warning video. The Weather Channel's cried wolf too many times, and now nobody knows if it's actually a serious storm coming through. I had to drive about 5 miles west of town to get service to upload that. So while warning people about possible tornadoes with that storm front, I downloaded this book with the tornado principle of matter in it. I just did the video about Terrance Howard on Rogan, and this guy is the genius behind what he was talking about. And he probably could have done a better job explaining it. I'm still a neophyte here, but I did do my homework here. I'm maybe a D student at this point, but I can explain to you guys what I do grasp so far. You guys can download this for free and have all the fun you want with it. Hopefully, I don't have brain fry too much to do this video. I'm having a hard time getting lines out. But if you search Walter Russell, the Universal One Internet Archive, you can get this for free. So in Terrance Howard's interview with Joe Rogan, he talks about going to this mansion in his dreams, and inside are all these little balls of light with the keys to wisdom. And then he says that he found Walter Russell's work, and he had already laid out everything that he had seen in this mansion of wisdom. And after looking into Russell's work, then it looks like Howard is just repackaging somebody else's work here, even down to the mystical nature of this knowledge. Russell is said to have done astral projection from a young age, and then in 1921 he experienced a 39-day cosmic illumination. Now, that isn't defined, but it sounds really weird today. 100 years ago, there were a lot of people on this path. Rudolf Steiner, John Royal Keeley, Nicholas Rourke, Madame Blavatsky. And some of their stuff sounds kind of woo-woo, but it sounds like Russell, and I know Nicholas Rourke, started foundations with the true intent being the betterment of humanity. They saw mankind at a fork in the road where the only way forward was to harmonize with the divine nature of things. Now we see science and mysticism and spirituality as separate things, to where everybody used to see it as all the same thing. If you're studying science, then you're studying God. Who knows what this 39-day cosmic illumination was all about? It could have literally been a Wasca trip. Those kind of things really do allow you to experience the world in a different way, and you really do get insights into a deeper understanding of things if you're using it in a meditative, spiritual sense instead of just party and laugh. And when multiple people all glean the same insights, then I believe there's something to it. So let's start with this. This is something I've thought for a very long time, but Russell is more eloquenter than me. In the beginning, God. There is but one God. There is but one universe. God is the universe. God is not one and the universe another. The universe is not a separate creation of God. It is God. There is no created universe. Nothing is which has not already been. All created things are from the beginning. They have no beginning. They do not come into being. They are and always have been and always will be. In the sense generally understood by man, God did not create anything. Nothing has been created. This is a creating universe, not a created one. So right now, God is playing you, he's playing me in the most advanced 3D simulation ever. A lot of you guys remember I used to end all of my videos with "we are all one." And then I realized that nobody is understanding that on the level that I mean it. This is what I meant. This whole universe is one living, thinking thing. It's all one energetic soup that we're mixed up in. And I've wondered for a long time what would happen if everyone realized at the same time that we're just billions of divisions of the same mind. There's a story of the gods, I believe it's Set and Osiris, and they had a twisted idea of party tricks, but he built a box and told all the other gods, whoever fits in here the best wins the box or something. Well, it was all a trick to trap this one god and lock him in the box and throw him in the river. And I'm probably getting the story all wrong, but I think of a scenario like that where this whole universe is something that we're trapped in. And if everybody all at once had that, oh wait, I'm dreaming epiphany, would we wake up all of a sudden as a god? I don't know, just some thoughts. But this is all one thing. We're going to get into some really cool charts in a minute, but we need to get the fundamentals down here. The one universal substance, which is God, is a tangible substance, a thinking substance, comprehensible and describable and possessed of principles which are familiar to man through man's observation of the one universal substance in created things. The substance of all created things, which is matter, is light. The one substance of the thinking mind is all that exists. The last important thing to note here is mind is expressed in light, and light is the storehouse of energy of the thinking mind. Now, this idea is found in old religious beliefs as well. The concept of not a blade of grass grows without an angel telling it to do so. It's the idea that all action comes from the mind of the creator and then manifests in this material world. The mind is expressed in light, and light is matter. Frozen light is matter. Light vibrating at different frequencies is what makes the different elements, as we're about to get into. This is probably the best place to start if I'm understanding all this correctly. Let's start in the very center of this diagram here, and some of these things aren't defined very well. We'll call this the 0 point in the center. That 0 point is this right here. Light, aka energy, is what's creating all matter. And it's phasing in and out from positive to negative. So you start out at the 0 point of this cycle, and the matter is starting to expand to our left. This is the positive phase. It hits the peak of that positive cycle, the largest it's going to get, and then it reverses into a contraction phase, shrinking away from the positive side of things back down to the 0 point. It goes through the 0 point and then starts expanding into the negative phase. Once it expands to its full potential, it reverses again and goes back down to the 0 point. So the energy is constantly phasing back and forth between poles, and really makes me want to revisit the double slit experiment. Now, going back to this diagram, and I might not be understanding this part correctly, but I think you can view the outside of that circle as the ether, and the energy bouncing off that back into itself and creating matter. And I think that's what Terrance Howard was describing when he said that this shape is the space between four bubbles. So light, which is the energy that creates all matter, is phasing back and forth between positive and negative poles, and all that energy is bouncing off this interstitial ether space. Does that make some sense? Well, good, because it gets a lot more complicated with the overlapping waves. This is a side view of that process. First, the energy swirls up through the positive phase of the cycle, expanding. I'm not sure if they even had the terms protons and electrons at the time of him writing this, but the energy hits full expansion, starts contracting back down through the positive phase to the 0 point, and then starts expanding back up through the negative phase. It hits full expansion and then starts contracting back down to the 0 point. So matter is this constant pulsation of energy doing this, expanding, contracting, inhaling, exhaling. Now, if you look at this in the terms of the traditional atom that we're taught, first off, it's all just empty space and energy fields. They say if an electron were the size of a tennis ball, then the distance to the nucleus would be something ridiculous like 3,000 miles. But this is a 2D representation of the electrons, protons, frozen in time. But according to Russell, these are constantly pulsating, basically in and out of existence, if I'm understanding that correctly. And the diagram on the right would be a freeze frame of, like, right here. Now we're going to take this vortices and we're going to look down at it from the top. You see how it travels through a spiral, in and out, up and down. Creation is but a swing of the cosmic pendulum from inertia through energy and back again to inertia forever and ever. It is but a series of opposing pulsations, action and reaction, integration and disintegration, gravitation and radiation, appearance and disappearance. So I think I got that correct, that the matter is pulsating in and out of existence. It's like a motion picture moving through frames so fast that you perceive it as one constant thing. He gets into the positive and negative forces and the resistance, and there's only so far I'm going to try to explain this. If you guys want to do a deep dive, you can go much deeper on this. So let's talk about the condensation of energy into matter, or the expansion of energy into matter. I actually think both are correct. There is but one universal substance, and I'm not sure if in his version here that is the same as the ether or if those are separate. My understanding is that the universal substance energy is expanding and contracting within the ether. You've probably heard of quantum entanglement, spooky action at a distance, to where if two particles are quantum entangled, then whatever you do to one of them has a reaction on the other one, no matter how far the physical distance is between the two particles. Well, I've heard it described that the only way that that's possible is if there is an infinitely dense ether. It's like a vibration happening simultaneously all throughout space-time. I'm not going to try to elaborate any further. I just wanted to throw that in before we start here because, according to Russell, the first bit of matter that we can perceive is hydrogen. He predicts that there's elements beyond hydrogen going back towards the 0 point, but it's too dense for us to perceive it. That might sound backwards because hydrogen is the lightest element, but it's the ether that's making it too dense for us to perceive. So let's go through his table of elements, and then I'll do my best to try to tie it in with our traditional understanding of electrons and all that. So let's start out at the 0 point once again, and the energy expands through its positive phase until it hits the first note of the third octave. Now, the way I understand this is if the energy is traveling with enough inertia that it expands out to the first note of the third octave, and that's its maximum expansion, then you have hydrogen. Then the energy contracts back down through the 0 point and does the same thing on the negative phase. If the energy has more inertia and travels from 0 point out to maximum expansion, and the increase in inertia carries the energy to expand out to the first note of the fifth octave, then you have lithium. So there is but one substance, but it's vibrating at a different frequency. And the more inertia or speed it has, then the wider it expands out from the 0 point, creating different elements. I really hope I'm explaining his idea correctly here, but it makes a lot of sense to me. So let's say we're going to expand out to the first note of the fourth octave, which is hydrogen right here. The energy only has enough inertia to make it out to this point of the vortices, and then it will negative phase the same amount. So we'll put an H right here representing the first note of the fourth octave, and that's the maximum expansion of the energy. Now say you want to get carbon. Well, it has to expand out to the fourth note of the fifth octave now. So the same energy, the one universal substance, has to expand further up the vortices away from the 0 point to the fourth note of the fifth octave, and now you have carbon. You see what I'm saying? Now, why does it go up to the fifth octave instead of the fourth octave? Because it has more inertia. It's the same one substance, which is light or energy, traveling with more inertia, therefore having a different frequency, therefore being a different element. Let's say this is a hydrogen atom, and the circle is as far as it expands before it starts contracting again. Then to get to be a carbon atom, it has to expand out to this circle. Now, like I said, I'm still a novice at this subject, but this should work out one way or another to equaling a greater atomic weight. But that's going to take some thinking, because then you have to kind of redefine what weight is, what gravity is, and the relationship between the two, because you're weighing based off the gravitational pull. I'll probably have to sleep on that because I've already spent all week visualizing and thinking through all this stuff. Sure, it sounds kind of simple now, but my brain's a little sore. But it's good to break your brain a little bit, because it's like muscle tissue. You work out and you rip that muscle tissue and it grows back a little bit stronger each time. Same way with flexing your brain beans. If you're not pushing to the edge of your understanding every once in a while, then you get soft and flabby. In the head, which is me most of the time lately. So, a recap here, there is but one mind, one cosmic substance. It's constantly in a state of evolution and dissolution, the negative to positive phases. Evolution is the concentrative desire of mind to create the idea of many substances out of the one. Dissolution is the disintegrative desire of mind to return that which it has created into its source in the one. So you see the one substance expanding out to different octaves and creating apparently different substances. It's still the one substance, just vibrating at a different frequency. The question that needs to be answered here that I haven't found yet is why the one substance sometimes has more inertia and sometimes less inertia to create the different matter. But I'm telling you, Walter Russell is a pretty clever guy here, and I bet the answer is in here somewhere. I just haven't found it yet. We've covered, 3 or 4 pages of a 360-page book? There's a lot more to learn here. Down at the bottom, it says the 7 different apparent substances are but different states of motion of the one substance. There are 7 tones on an octave, and there are 10 octaves of 7 tones each. In the last 4 octaves, there are many midtones, each one registering its own state of motion. Man calls these various states of motion of the one substance by many names, and they appear to be many substances. The apparent difference between the many is due solely to the difference of motion and not to substance. Many states of motion are possible, but there are not 2 substances in the universe. There is only one substance. There can only be one substance, as all states of motion are measurable and under the absolute control of mind. And as man is mind, man may, with drawing knowledge of causes, change any one state of motion into any other state of motion, and by doing so, transmute any one substance into any other one. The granite rock may become gold or radium at the will of man. So Walter Russell seems to be the enlightened alchemist. I really think the whole idea of alchemists transmuting other substances into gold was just a surface level explanation that the masses could understand, because that's easy to understand. You want to make gold, so you got a lot of money. But the deeper pursuits of the alchemist, searching for the philosopher's stone, is ultimately searching for the one substance that is all matter. And like I said earlier, people didn't used to see science as a purely secular pursuit, when to understand nature around us is to understand God, the mind. We're living in a world of reaction, not action. Everything originates from source and manifests here. Or, not a blade of grass grows without an angel telling it to do so. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I really enjoyed making this video. Like I said in the first video, I wouldn't have gone through all of this effort if this was all for naught. I think this provides some pretty deep insight into the nature of our reality. And ultimately, it all goes back to what I was telling you guys from the beginning. We are all one. Now I feel like I've sufficiently explained that statement. Static out.